gamers, and welcome to Season 5, Episode 5 of Ropai Gamma, the Gamers Podcast. I am your GM, Byron, and of course with me is my co-host, Howard. Damn it.
Again.
I was giving you flack for it. Now, of course, I can't say it straight.
Karma's a bitch, buddy. Karma's a bitch.
Yeah, I know. Times 3. So, anyway, my co-host, Howard.
Greetings.
Oh, good grief. It has been a week, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been kind of cool for me.
Really? Oh, do tell.
Well, I am sitting in what my wife refers to my man cave, but I refer to as my Roman room, which is my new gaming library. And for the first time in history, I have a wall-to-wall, floor to almost ceiling shelves with most of my gaming library, and soon to have my entire gaming library organized in one place.
Nice.
I am reporting. This is the first report from the Roman room, from my office.
Awesome.
Yes, I just completed it. So, all right. However, if we're going to talk about stuff going on in gaming, I have a story, a tale of tales.
Oh, not again.
Oh, it's awesome. But I was going to let you take first crack at it, and then I can. What up to you?
I actually do have some stuff to tell. Heaven forbid.
Yes, you do. It's up to you. You're the leader here. What do you want? Me first. You first.
I'll go first because mine's actually still going to be relatively short. Let's see. We haven't done the Epic game again since we talked about it last time. So, because unfortunately we've got players. The whole next month and a half is going to be crazy for the Epic game because of all the all the summer travel and
when
whatnot.
Are we doing next? I don't even know.
Well, Matt and Allison are going on vacation to the Bahamas for the next week, so they won't be really available until I think it's the next week or so.
Speaking of which, I got a vacation. I got a vacation coming up too for a week, so FYI, I gotta figure out when it is.
Yeah, I remember.
And then you have one, and shortly after that.
Yep. Well, I'm coming down to see you.
I was referring to that, yes.
So yeah, I'm not entirely sure when the Epic game is actually going to happen again for a bit. But yeah, there was still that craziness. Let's see. I actually successfully ended, as in it did not fall apart. I actually ended it purposefully. The Star Wars game I'd been running on Sundays
Congratulations.
went for 14 months.
Yeah, nice, dude.
I think. So,
is that your longest?
No. My longest, if you actually put the campaigns together, my longest would be the Star Wars game I ran at AIW, and I say that because although I did do the finale for that game, a few quarters later, and I say quarters because AIW was on a quarter system, not a semester system. A few quarters later, we decided to resurrect a bunch of the characters from that game and to start playing from a few years after the finale and go from there. And that went for a while. I don't remember exactly how long, but I think actually the Star Wars one down in North Carolina in essence lasted longer. The one where I had to have the come to Jesus meeting.
Ah, yes.
Because that one actually lasted from when I started it. I remember playing some of the finale scenes in what was left of my living room as we were packing up to move up here.
Yeah.
So, but that also was because of the fact that there were some times I was rotating with Matt. Like he would run something one week, I would run the next. So, there were some things that kind of stretched it out a bit. This one was, aside from conventions and various, meetings and scheduling and whatnot, this one was pretty consistent, every Sunday. So this is also the one where they completely screwed over the timeline in a way I never thought possible.
Yes, the one where he found the one way to
the one way I never anticipated to screw up me doing time travel in Star Wars, and I had to rewrite 4,000 years of Star Wars history. Yes.
I remember that phone call.
Yep. Actually, although I didn't record it like I know you had asked me to, they did still have the meeting with the Emperor.
Oh man, I wish I could have heard that.
It actually went. It didn't go like I was originally thinking, because of other factors in the game I had to take into account, but it still went rather well. So, actually, the Emperor himself didn't really do much of anything. It was actually one of his High Inquisitors was doing most of the talking for him. So,
everything was going so well until they died.
yeah, well, I mean, the Emperor didn't die. Vader did in that one.
Really?
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
How did he bite it?
Well, the main plot of the Star Wars game is there are a group of Darksiders who have found a Sith holocron that has this prophecy that if it came to fruition, the dark side would basically become a living being in our realm and pretty much rule the galaxy. But they needed certain things. One of the prophecy tells that it needs basically, to put it in layman's terms, it needs DNA from the Skywalker line. So usually they get it from Luke when his hand gets cut off at Bespin before Vader recovers it. I think it's where they usually get that from. And they need the weapon of the last Dark Lord, which, is currently Darth Vader. So the player characters had orchestrated a meeting with the Emperor, because they were basically going to the Emperor to basically be like, either, look, we and the Alliance are trying to deal with this. It would be a lot easier if we didn't have to worry about you all coming in behind us, and because we're obviously going to have to shuffle resources. So either could you lay off on the war just long enough for us to deal with this, or better yet, why don't you help? So that's what they were going to negotiate. And the Sith Council was like, here is our two biggest problems going to be meeting in the same room at the same time. We can't pass this up. And of course, the Emperor had plans within plans. He had backup, contingencies. The player characters had backup contingencies. I was actually really impressed. The player characters had backup, had a backup plan and whatnot to put into, just in case and whatnot. But I have it to where one of the Emperor's Royal Guard actually does get converted to the Sith Council's, because one of the members of the Sith Council is an Inquisitor who focuses on Force illusions, and he kind of dupes one of the Royal Guard into siding with them, and he teaches him some Force powers. So, and that guard made sure that he was one of the guards that was guarding the Emperor for this meeting. And at the signal, he took his Force pike and Vader was sitting there at the conference table, at the Emperor's right side, and at the signal, he just took his Force pike and ran Vader through.
Wow.
Basically stapled him to the table, cut off his head.
A2 Brute.
And then telekinetically grabbed his head and his lightsaber and tried to book it. Wow. Unfortunately, thanks to the player characters, he didn't make it. In fact, he got captured alive and got handed over to the Emperor. You can imagine his day after that.
Poor Annie, dude. What a way to go.
Yeah. So, and of course, this all was happening right before Empire Strikes Back. So, what is it with me and changing the timeline right before Empire Strikes Back?
Maybe it's a good time to do it?
I guess. Because that was kind of when, like, the Empire was at its prime, but the Alliance was really at its, really gaining its momentum after the Battle of Yavin.
I don't really do a lot of messing around with the timeline, as you well know. Most of my games run concurrent. I like to weave rather than run over.
Well, I used to weave. I still try to weave. In fact, if the Sith Council game goes off like it's supposed to, it actually weaves right through up into the end of Return of the Jedi. Because actually the way they usually get Vader's saber is the Royal Guard is on the second Death Star and recovers Vader's hand after Luke cuts it off.
Yeah.
That's his saber. He grabs that and runs. And the prophecy even talks about having the darkness being dealt a great blow, which is supposed to be the death of the Emperor and the destruction of the second Death Star.
Wow.
But they obviously really screwed with things in this one. So, but yeah, I finally brought that to a close. They defeated the darkness. They pushed back the darkness.
I fire at the darkness.
Yeah, it took more than Magic Missile, Bucky. I'll tell you that. And Miri has been. I think we've got one more session to go before the adventure's up, and then she and I are going to pause. I had asked her to run me in something for my birthday, and we've been slowly trying to get this one adventure. You know, it was supposed to be a one shot. To get this one adventure actually finished, and I think I'm meeting with her later this week to try to finish it up because she's actually moving in a couple of weeks.
Jeez.
So yeah, so because we played last night.
I mean, away from you, closer to you. You don't have to tell me exactly.
Actually, she will technically be closer to us, but where she's moving to, she will actually be almost halfway between you and me. She's moving to. I think she's actually moving to like South Carolina with her
boyfriend.
Get
together sometime.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, are we having any headway putting up the two adventures in this format, which is infinitely better?
I talked to her about that. I need to send her the actual file so that she can do it. It may have to wait until after she moves. But yeah, I will keep on her about that. Which actually also brings up another thing. I do have a shout out to give real quick.
Okay.
Because actually that pretty much wrapped up my what I've been doing in gaming recently. I actually have to give a shout out to our good friend over in Spain, Jorge Vallejo.
Ah, Vallejo.
He commented on the first episode of this season, welcoming us back, but commented that he can't really put YouTubes on his MP3 player. And that brought up the fact that, again, that I've been trying to get things cleared up with the server space that we were using to store the episodes and whatnot. And actually, Miri might give us a temporary fix until I can get that straightened out. So we might actually have just raw audio of the episodes available as well here soon-ish.
Another thing we could do, actually, it's a possibility if Jorge would be kind enough to give us some place to send it, or anyone, or we could do it through a Dropbox.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to like slap it somewhere and have him download it straight if he wanted.
Well, what I was thinking of, there's plenty of free online programs that convert YouTube to MP3 files. And I'd be happy to work on doing that, or with you, or whatever, so that people who do need it in an MP3 format can just download it.
If you can find one that can go over 60 minutes, the one I currently use that's free can't do YouTube videos over like 59 minutes.
All right, we'll work on that.
But yeah, I think I've heard of some others too, so that's a possibility too.
And we make it free for our listeners. Free stuff is always good.
Yeah, always. We're gamers. We hate paying for shit.
Swag.
So, all right. So, but yeah, Jorge, thanks for staying with us, man. Glad to hear you're still listening to us. We will try to accommodate you here in the nearest future as soon as we can figure something out.
Stick with us, Jorge. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, I remember when I used to be such a tech head. Like, you know, I could figure out just about anything. I feel so freaking stupid in the past decade.
You're old. That's it. Not stupidity, it's age.
God, why'd you have... I would rather be stupid.
I know, right?
I mean, I still give my mom... My mom was a computer programmer for IBM for 30 years.
In one of their secret labs.
No, actually, it was just in the
Oh, yeah.
She worked... Actually, She worked with NASA some. She actually had some programs that went up on Skylab.
Yep.
But where the last place she worked mainly was their factory and station at Manassas before they sold it off. But no, I just laughed at, you know, she was a computer programmer for 30 years and she calls me up for tech support because she can't figure out how to print directions from Google Maps.
It's not intelligence or training, dude. It's just...
Nope, it's just technology moves faster and age.
Sad but true. All right, over to me?
So, yep, over to you. Go.
Okay, AndoCon. AndoCon.
Yes, that's right. You were at a con this weekend.
OMG, and I don't use that term lightly. OMG. So here's what happened. In Shintar Justice in Life, of which I've mentioned once or twice before in this podcast.
Never stop about.
Yeah, shameless plug. We were doing the Thundering Skies saga. It was a three 3-act saga, 3-part saga, dealing over 3 cons, and I'm trying to remember what all the cons were. They were all over the United States, and the first convention back in February or whatever introduced the first act, the beginning, and the point is that speaking of collaboration, Shinetar, the world of Shinetar, which runs on Savage Worlds, is actually part of something called the Suzerain Continuum. The Suzerain Continuum is a collaboration among a group of actual Savage Worlds games, totally different companies that have gotten together and linked their games in a cosmos, so that the GMs and the players, whatever, can actually pull things from other games into theirs. So, for example, whatever's in the Suzerain Continuum, I can't think of any of the games off the top of my head, but let's say you were playing in their game, and all of a sudden a portal opened up, heroes from Shinetar could just appear in your world. But keep in mind, these worlds are alien to each other. So the way Sean did it is, Sean already has sort of a vehicle for this, the way he designed his world. And what happened is with the Thundering Skies, an alien entity who is believed to be the Storm God, we're not entirely sure if it was a god or just a very powerful entity, was attempting to actually sort of remake Shinetar to suit its own whims, and doing so began to corrupt mages and druids, and force these druids and mages to open up portals, allowing its power to flow into Shinetar and to begin to actually remake the fabric of Shinetar's reality.
Oh, wow.
Bad news for us.
Yeah.
The reason it wanted Shinetar is made up of primarily of Cressarium. It's the largest deposit of Cressarium in the cosmos. And Cressarium is pretty much one of the most magically active substances in sort of the Suzerain. Think of it as, how you have nuclear reactions, you need like military-grade plutonium, which is highly radioactive. Yeah. Think about Cressarium as being highly magically radioactively potent.
It's the magical equivalent of plutonium.
Correct. More to the point, because of its, let's call it magical radioactivity, it actually breaks down and destroys advanced mechanics and electronics. The magical radiation put off by Cressarium is the reason science and technology has stopped at a certain level, because every time they try to go past it, it breaks down abnormally quickly. You can't have advanced technology in Shinetar because the background radiation of the magic. You remember the whole magic science thing? Well, in this case, magic won. Yeah. So anyway, these things are coming through. The first convention basically was the first Storm Magus appeared and summoned the power of the storm, and more or less brought in a tidal wave that wiped out an entire. I think they pretty much wiped out an entire town, killed thousands of people, opened a rift. It was horrible. I was there. I was there for the one after. Then the one after it. Then there's one small one after that. I was at. Then there was another big one in which another huge event happened, in which we as the heroes learned that holy crap, it's not just one crazy storm dude, it's thousands of crazy storm dudes, and they all have a plan, and we don't know what the hell they're doing. Well, this has been going on, and we've all been collaborating, and he produced a free, think about it as a free RPG outline, not a module, but let's call it an outline, suggestions, stuff like that, with special rules, special items, and special characters that GMs could use. Justice and Life collaboration. So all over the world, Justice and Life GMs got this packet and started running these things, and there was a timeline built into the packet. So if you want to run this, you're going to run it between these dates, and it was a pretty wide margin to give. I mean, it was like you have basically it was like the end of winter, the beginning of spring, going into summer kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Andocon was the big finale. Andocon was deciding the fate of the world. By the time the events of Andocon, which actually occurred on in-game Red Wolf 15th, the day of Red Wolf 15th, year 3123. That's when it actually occurred. Okay. In this event, there was a supercell storm over the entirety of Shinetar. A single storm that, if you stepped out from cover during this storm, you had to roll versus death.
Ow.
That's in the rules. There was basically, at that point, if you stepped out, you were rolling versus death every minute until it killed you. Think about a tornado, a hurricane, a lightning storm, a mudslide, an earthquake, a tidal wave, a hail, hail, all at one time, all across the world. In the meantime, these storm druids were opening up portals to bring the power in, and the storm was basically going to shatter the world and remake it in a new image. Well, of course, the heroes found a loophole. Because the portals were bringing energy in, we followed them out. And those of us who – there was 10 of us, I believe 10. Those of us who entered the last event at Andocon – now keep in mind, Andocon was a 2-day event. On Saturday in the morning, I ran my shot. I was running it. I ran a game which was a mini Act 1 to introduce new people to it. All right. Then I actually went and played in one of Paul's games, and it was like a run up to. It was like an intermediate game. Then I actually went to Brian's house and ran from my home game the conclusion of Act 2. Woke up the next morning and went back to Andocon. We started at 11 o'clock in the morning. We ended at 6 p.m. that evening. Straight.
Damn, dude.
Straight. The final map was 9 feet. The final board was 9 feet long. That was we traveled across that, fought across 9-foot table miniatures. It was like something out of Warhammer. And the people that were there were the massive heroes of Shintar, and we fought out of Shintar into a storm temple, out of the storm temple into a patchwork composite realm that was being created by the power of the storm. That was actually this storm god was actually taking pieces of worlds all throughout the suzerain continuum and mashing them into one sort of psychedelic, like alien landscape that we had to fight across. 10 of us plus our allies. Guess who was in command?
You.
Alexander Wolfhaven, Colonel of the Grey Rangers and Commander of the Legion of Heroes.
Right, you.
We fought across this battlefield in the most epic game I think I've ever played in. Got to the final boss. Realized that one of our own, a character named Shailene, actually as they call her, had been captured, and they were draining her power, and she was being used as the conduit. She was the anchor to Shintar. They were using her because she was a piece of Shintar and she was powerful, so they're using her to create the connection to continue draining Shintar's power. And one of the player characters, actually Sean's daughter, who was playing with us, used a special ability, a special card, and took the place of the person, sacrificing herself for the world. And then we ran to rescue her. I will send you a link, and so we'll post it up for everyone to read my report. But I'm going to get to that in a second. The last turn. Now understand that Sean, when we went into, Sean said, "What you do will determine what happens for my game here on out. If you decide or if you fail, it's over. Things are going to happen. The storm's going to win, and we are going to be in a post-storm world until you can figure out how to fix it." He said. And we had already made plans out of game the Ravens flock. We already outlined the next 6 months of like post-storm damage and how it would affect just in case.
Yeah.
It came down to a final moment, and at the last turn, in an epic game where the last turn there is no dice rolling, there is no there's no like real like turn order. It's just like everyone just makes that final choice what they're going to do, and then then they commit themselves. And whatever happens, happens. We get to the final turn. Sean Patrick Fannin, the creator, looks at me and says, "Commander, you're in charge. You decide." And I gave the orders that saved or broke the world. It was epic. We won. We saved the world and healed the world. And we got most of the people out. We had some deaths on our side. It just happens.
Well, as I say, there's always going to be some collateral.
Oh my God, I could go into detail for hours, but the long and short of it is the next day, I get back from the con on Sunday. Monday I go to work, and then Monday night I take a nap, get up, and I wrote for 4 hours straight a 10-page, like 3,000-word explanation after game report, posted it, and as of this morning it was posted up and has become gospel. There you go, dude. I led the forces that saved the world of Shintar. Everybody did a great job. Everybody did an amazing job. So this was freaking amazing. And we fought, like I said, starting at 11 a.m. We ended at 6 p.m. So coolness, right?
I got nothing.
I know, dude. Oh my God, it was so.
I got nothing. wraps
Anyway,
up an over-year campaign, and I'm just like, I apparently didn't do shit this week in comparison.
no, dude, no, seriously, man, it was, God, a lot of really cool gamers there, a lot of like high-powered gamers, and a lot of really powerful characters. I just love the fact that I was in command. It was really freaking cool. Just where I wanted to be. So we have like a huge list of topics. What do you want to start with?
Well, I know there's one that you had mentioned a couple of episodes ago that you wanted to do, and then we either kept forgetting about it or getting sidetracked with something else.
All right, let me throw it out there, guys.
Do you remember what it was?
Oh, heck yeah, Day in the Life.
Yeah, it's because after I reminded you beforehand.
Yes, you did. Day in the Life. Sean Patrick Fannin, again, produced a product that can be found on DriveThruRPG. You actually just search for Shinetar or Day in the Life. What Day in the Life is, it's download on PDF. You can print it out. I think it's like $5, maybe $10. I'm not entirely sure. But what it is it is a packet which has the rules for doing out-of-game / downtime role-playing. And it's a very cool concept. The way and it uses Savage Worlds system, Savage Worlds cards and things like that. It uses a deck of cards, but it can be adapted to anything. And the way it works is you pick from a list of things that you want to do. So let's say you want to run a game, you want to run action, you want to run sort of like a resource building or an out-of-game type thing, sort of like in the lull type sort of thing. Or maybe you're a GM that just doesn't have an idea of what to run and you want something cool to do. This is a great role-playing, resource building, getting into the world type mechanic. And so you look down the list of things, and one of them is influence, one of them is crafting, one of them is carousing, one of them is, negotiating, one of them is love interest, whatever. Anyway, you as a player decide what you want to do. And then it works in turns, but they're not like 6-second turns. These are more like day turns, or if you're doing a day in the life, hours. And if you're and day in the life can be a day, it can be a week. It's sort of like God time. It's however long or short you want it to be. And then what you do is for each action you can do 2 actions in a day, or you can do 1 action all day long. And it goes in 3. So if you do 2 actions, it's 3 turns apiece. And if you do something all day long, commit the whole day to it, you get 5 turns. And what you do is once you choose it, then you look at your character sheet, and you have certain edges and hindrances. And depending upon the edges and hindrances, you draw these cards, which give you modifiers, positive or negative to your final count, basically die roll. And then you decide how you're going to go about it based on your skills, and that will determine the stat that you use. So the player gets to decide how they're going to go about it. So the player says, I want to influence, and I'm going to use my persuade. As you go along, the cards have... Yes.
Sorry, you blacked out there for a second. I didn't hear you. I think it kind of cut out. Just to make sure that we're catching it in the recording, can you...
Okay.
Think of where you were. It was very quick. It was like I think you were saying something about like negotiating or something.
Oh, okay. So let's say you wanted to pick like negotiating. And you're going to use your persuasion skill.
Yeah, there we go.
And you look at your edges and hindrances, and you say, all right, you draw 3 extra cards because you have this hindrance, because you have this edge, you can ignore one of them. And so you draw those cards, and the cards, it's kind of a crapshoot. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. The good ones can take dice pool modifiers, the good ones can cancel out dice that you roll, whatever. And then you collect the cards, then you role play the action that you want to do. Then you roll the dice, and then you count up whatever your total is, because it's a Savage World system, but it could be used for D20 with some slight tweaks. Then you take into account the cards, the positives and negatives. But on the cards, it also has cool stuff like plot hook or unexpected bonus or whatever. And as you go through, and you roll for 3 rounds, right? And you go around the table rolling for 3 rounds, and at the end of which you're trying to get a certain number of successes. And if you get enough, and then you go to the chart at the end of whatever that section is, whether it's negotiating or persuasion or crafting, and depending upon your net number of successes, plus or minus all of your modifiers, but in it, they have cards that have plot hooks. They have cards that have love interests. So there's a lot of unintended consequences. And once the round is done and everyone has done their actions and everything's been decided, then the GM gets to add unique plot hooks, unique character, information, character details, unique love interests, unique complications based on the card draw that you got. So it generates ideas.
What the heck?
You there?
Yeah, I heard generates ideas, and then you went dark again. You actually went dark beforehand, but it didn't sound like we missed much.
Wow, I have no idea what's going on because my end seems okay.
I don't know. Occasionally you do sound a little choppy. I'm wondering if it's your net.
It could be. I don't know.
I mean, I'm fully willing to admit it may be mine too. So,
but anyway, so with this product, basically it creates a mechanical system to do out-of-game gaming stuff and gives the players a chance to use their skills in unique ways. This is totally non-combat. Although, in one of the carousing ones, you can actually take damage. Like, that's part of the thing, that if you fail by a certain amount, you actually take wounds that affect future dice. Because you basically get in a bar fight. So it's a really cool mechanic. It creates a mechanical dice and card system to handle out-of-game role-play type stuff. And what it really does, though, GMs, fireside chat time, when you've got a group of players that are really turned on by rolling dice and getting loot, and you know how sometimes it's difficult to get them to actually role-play and to talk outside of combat and tactics or bar crawling. We've all had this, right?
Yeah.
This system allows you to introduce role-playing with dice, in which a non-combat situation where they must use those social skills and those crafting skills and those negotiating skills, and where they get loot and get plot hooks. It is role-playing via dice, and it's affordable at a low price of like $5 or $10, available at DriveThruRPG.
$5.
What?
I just pulled it up. $5. $4.99.
Low price of $5 on DriveThruRPG. Day in the life. Check it out. Back to you.
As I say, I will actually make sure that we have a link to it now that I've got it pulled up.
Cool.
So, sweet. Oh,
next one on the list. Are you okay?
I don't know. I mean, I don't feel that tired, but I'm just yawning like crazy.
Now you got me yawning. Stop that.
I'm sorry. Well, I mean, we don't have to cover all of these.
Well, keep in mind, this is your podcast, so you get to decide the topics.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure ladies take over the podcast. That's probably not going to.
Obviously, that's not going to happen right now. And some of these actually would require, like, some of the people, because, yeah, I had said last week if they gave the idea, we'd have them on the...
Then go with the ones that we can.
I don't know, man. No, screw it. Dice versus online dice rollers and dice towers, man.
Okay. You're up.
Honestly, I have. It's actually kind of interesting. I actually personally prefer physical dice, and I actually prefer dice towers because they are damn near impossible to cheat with. Because I know some people can actually figure out how to like throw dice to get the results they want, depending on which dice they're using. So I actually like doing dice towers, but unfortunately recently I've been using more online or app rollers, just out of the convenience of the fact of not having the space or doing online, especially when we're using Roll20 because Roll20's got its own die roller in it. But I personally, I prefer physical dice. I actually like having the dice in my hand, throwing them down or throwing them in the dice tower and letting them roll.
You like the sound as they clatter across the table?
Yeah, actually, I used to love the fact that back when we were at AIW, Liz got so good that she could tell how many dice I was rolling just by the sound of them.
Wow.
But even before we got a dice tower. I'd like throw some dice, and she's like, "He just threw freaking 8 dice. What the hell is he rolling for?" And I'd sit there, and I'm like, "How the f did you know I was rolling 8?" She's like, "The sound." I was like, "Damn."
That's impressive.
So
For me, though, first of all, for me, I have never in my life used nor owned a dice tower. I have looked at a lot of pretty dice. Actually, at Andicon, I looked at a really pretty dice tower. I've always kind of in the back of my mind wanted one, but my problem is that's just another piece of crap I got to lug around.
yeah, although Liz actually made like for the group for the Star Wars group and Greenville one year, she actually found a pattern, asked the guy if she could use it, and he said yeah. She actually made us all dice towers. I actually still have it.
Well, that is cool.
One got me.
I've seen little wooden collapsible ones that you pull the pieces out and it collapses down, and that's cool. But then again, that's another thing I have to carry around and set up. I'm an old school gamer, and I always have my dice with me. I really do enjoy the feel of some dice. I love the way they roll. But that being said, in the past 10 years, I use almost exclusively dice rollers, specifically a Dungeons and Dragons dice roller. It's my favorite for two reasons. One, it has all the functionality that I need. It's got a good GUI, good interface. It does the rolls are pretty, sporadic. I mean, random. I understand that without actually rolling a die across the table, that you can get no randomization. As Roll20 has pointed out, that Roll20 is a feast or famine. It's either all ones or all 20s. It's kind of sad.
Just about.
And they just went to I've heard they've gone to like a quantum dice, whatever, that's supposed to be like the closest thing to true random that can get mathematically with current technology. They've actually just installed this in their newest upgrade. And like I rolled like a series of ones and I got 20, 20, 20, like 17, 1, 1, 1, 5, 20, 20. And I was like, woo! Apparently
that doesn't sound right.
Somebody needs to tweak the program. But
and see, my thing is like back when I was, God, this is really dating myself. When I first started getting into online roleplay, was actually in the old AOL chat rooms.
Oh,
yeah.
IRC!
No, I stayed away from IRC. So I thank one of my roommates at RMA for that one, the jerk. But I actually remember because, like, in the role plays that were going on in the chats in AOL, because AOL did have a dice system, so some people were coming up with a method to do duels and whatnot. And I remember I had one character do actually a death duel, and I lost, so I had to delete that account. I could recreate the character in a different account, but I had to, like, the standard was I had to delete that one account. And I was talking with someone else, and she's like, I think he was using a die mod or something, and I was just like, wait, what? She was like, I was like, you can't cheat on those rolls, can you? She's like, oh, yeah, you can. This was my first, exposure to the fact of basically hacking a dice roller, and I'm like, oh, really? And she's like, yeah, those dice were rolling a little too well for him, I think. I was like, oh, son of a bitch. So ever since I've known that was a possibility, I've always been a little leery of online dice rollers of any shape, way, or fashion, just because I know the fact of they can be tampered with. I mean, physical dice can be tampered with, too. I mean, you can have rigged dice. But those are at least usually a little easier to point out.
Yeah.
I mean, unless it's like a masterfully crafted die, you can usually pick up one and tell if it's weighted.
Yeah, for me it's the convenience, man. It really is.
Yeah.
And the D&D dice roller that I use, the nice unique thing about it is it's an online dice roller, but it has a built-in download mechanic to it. So you can actually download it as a sort of an app thing and have it, and that's what I've done. And I've used it for like I think 10 years.
I found a decent die roller app that was free for my iPhone. And that's what I've been using mainly.
Well, I mean, with all the technology out there, but keep in mind, I still keep my physical dice with me at all times at all games. I usually just give my dice to my players who invariably forget theirs. Talk about preparedness for games. Yeah. But no, I really, honestly, with all the things that I have to lug around, with all the things I have to keep track of, with the miniatures and the papers and the character sheets and this, that, and the other thing, I find the convenience of a dice roll on my laptop, which I keep with me. I mean, I use it for all my games. I just find you just can't beat the convenience of the online the roller.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's like I said, I mean, that's one of the main reasons why I still use mine on my phone over the physical dice. Also because of the fact of usually where I only play one game physically anymore.
Yeah.
All the rest of my games are online.
Same thing for me, dude.
and the one physical game I play, if I'm GMing, I sit in the good chair. No, seriously, they've got this like round chair and like the corner between their two couches, and usually the GM will sit there. Because like when I'm GMing, I sit there because usually I got players on my right, players on my left, because they're sitting on the couches. And that centralizes, that pulls everyone's attention. Should technically pull everyone's attention, because it doesn't always, to the GM. And when we were doing a different game on Saturdays, when Tim was running his Pathfinder game, I was playing that Paladin. He actually at one point in time was like, "Dude, you gonna sit down?" And I'm like, he was pointing at the chair, and I'm like, "I ain't GMing." He's like, "What?" I'm like, "You're GMing. That's your seat." I was sitting on one of the couches. I was like sitting right next to the chair.
Yeah, the hand behind the throne.
I can't stay too far away. But I was like, dude, this is your game. That's your seat. He's like, "Oh, thanks." I'm like, "No, you're GMing, dude. Sit."
The throne.
But the only problem is that, I mean, yeah, they've got a coffee table and whatnot. But usually there's, crap on there. Usually if you got a drink, that's where the drink is, because they do have a dog and 3 cats.
And you have to lean over and
you have to lean over and whatnot. Usually I've got books in my netbook in my lap.
Yep.
Because that's where all my game notes are and whatnot. So it's just easier just to sit there and have my phone in my hand.
Right? That's what I'm saying.
Than actually throw the dice and usually I'm switching between books too, because especially with Star Wars, because I was having to switch at least between 2 books: the Tales of the Jedi Companion for the Force Powers, and the Darkstrider campaign in-game book for the Tari spells, because that's what I was using to base off of the Ewok Shaman, his Force abilities. And then occasionally I'd have to, although I've got most of it memorized, I did have to occasionally reference the GM screen. So I had no room. I have no room for fucking Dice Tower.
That's what I'm talking about, dude. Actually, you know what you have done? You have subconsciously or consciously segued into the one right above that. You want to go for it?
I did.
Gaming online versus gaming in person. Which do you prefer?
Oh, damn. This one I'm torn on. And I'm torn on because it depends on the game.
All right, talk.
If I'm doing a small game, like down to like one-on-one, I used to be able to do one-on-one in person easily. I can't seem to anymore. I'm not sure why, aside from the fact I'm getting old. Shut up.
Wait, we have a theme for this podcast. When you name it, "Getting Old to Shut Up." That's going to be the title of this cast.
All right.
Geriatrics Anonymous.
The geriatric gamer.
Hey, it's anonymous because we honestly can't remember our names. We're too old.
The guy that did the thing.
Yes.
The thing. It's like, we know what he's saying, but he just can't remember the name. But no, when I'm doing small games, especially one-on-ones, I prefer doing them online. Especially considering with the way I game, if I'm doing a one-on-one game, that means I'm usually controlling a lot of NPCs.
Yeah, a small
and it
army.
makes it easier for me to differentiate between them.
Yeah.
Online. And to be able to think about what the NPC is gonna say, and not seem like a blithering idiot, because I'm sitting there like, because I may not be thinking as fast as the player is. Shut up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when it comes to small groups, I prefer online. But although I'm running 6 people in the Epic game, my comfort zone is 4 to 5 online. Going beyond that starts to get a little hairy, and if it wasn't for the fact that you helping me out so much, it probably would be hairy in the Epic game.
Yeah, you're more than welcome, dude. And we do need to sit down and talk about that after this.
Yeah, we do. So I like 4 to 5, the maximum online. Now in person, though, 4 is a good number. I can do 3 relatively well. But I prefer 4 or more, and actually I can go to, my comfort zone is like pushing 6 to 8 in person. Because one of the big differences is in person, I can read the people.
Yeah.
I can pick up physical cues. You can't do that online. So, like, I mean, the one thing that we've actually had to talk about in the Epic game a couple of times is people getting talked over.
Yeah.
because sometimes it's hard to get a word in edgewise when you've got something to say, and we've come up with a couple of different things to try to help with that. But unfortunately, bottom line, it's no one can see when someone else is going. With their hand raised, as I'm sitting here raising my hand and no camera.
Yeah.
You're trying to do the physical cue and no one's watching me, but Liz behind me. So, but you can't
be a problem online. It really can.
So yeah, that's why I prefer smaller groups online, larger groups, and it also depends on the style or the feel of the game too. Like, obviously, a good dungeon crawl or good kind of epic adventure type thing, I actually would prefer to do in person. But to do like a real dark nitty gritty, almost doing kind of like vampire, like gothic horror, I think I'd rather do in person or online, because online I can get better into character, and because although I am, I've been GMing for, I think we said like fucking 16, 17 years now,
yeah,
and I've been on stage, I still get stage fright. And sometimes I think I sound like a fucking idiot when I'm doing an NPC in person, but when I'm online, I can really get into character and really portray, what he's doing, how he's looking, how he's feeling, and whatnot. And you can get more descriptive online.
Yes.
Yes. And not pull so much away from the game, because there's sometimes I've been like in person describing something, and apparently either I didn't describe it well enough because people are confused, or someone finds it's like a serious moment, someone finds something funny because I slipped or something, and the mood just breaks. And actually, I had one player that actually broke the mood a couple of times during the game last Sunday. Okay, I take that back. All of us broke the mood at some point in time, I will admit. But yeah.
No, I understand. For me, actually, there's a couple considerations. I agree with you that in person, the physical cues, the ability to read the players is paramount, and you get more energy.
Yeah.
I've also found in person, and here's another problem. In person, I also can manage the players better because I can see what they're doing, and if they're distracted, if they're surfing the internet, if they're whatever, I'm actually able to see them. And there's almost like when you're in person, you feel it's the social awareness thing where everyone's looking at you and everyone's like partially self-conscious, even though we don't want to admit it to ourselves. Yeah. So behavior tends to be a little bit better in person because, they don't, you don't want to get yelled at by the group. You want to fit in. So maybe you aren't going to get up and just walk away from the table because your friends are going to, give you a hard time about it. Online, I've found that the distraction level skyrockets. People surfing the net, people talking on the phone, getting up, getting food without telling you because you're looking through a computer, there's not that personal responsibility. Because you have the buffer of the anonymous computer screen, I find people's attention level drops. I find their interest, their energy a lot of times drops. Not all the time. Now, conversely, I do 90% of my gaming online. Flat out. I love the online.
And I think that's partially because, like me, a lot of your players aren't local.
Correct. And online, I have a huge tool set. For example, whispering or doing individual stuff in the background, pulling, Machiavellian plans is more difficult in person because you either have to pass somebody a note or call them into another
attention.
Yeah, or call them into another room, and it just breaks the mood. However, online, you pop up a little window and you're sending private messages to everybody, and I can run like a much more streamlined game online with the available tools because I've built in dice rollers, I have built in chat windows, I've built in emotes, I have built in in-game, out-of-game conversation using Roll20. I've got a map that I can interact with. I got voice chat, video chat. I've got it's almost like a candy store of tools.
Yeah, and actually the Roll20, because normally I don't use a map at all unless I'm in Roll20.
Yeah, no, me
neither. Because I can't afford miniatures.
Yeah.
In which case if I am, I'm probably using Legos, in which case that takes more time to set up.
Oh no,
I get over and whatnot. So yeah, I try not to use maps, which is actually one of the reasons why I hated 4th edition when it came out, because it was so. Well, it was so reliant on on the grid work of miniatures. Um, but yeah, I mean, I love the fact of Roll20. I was like, wait a second, I need a fireball. Quick search,
Fireball.
fireball. Oh, there we go.
I
Click,
love
drag,
Roll20.
pop.
I love Roll20, but that's the thing. I between the two, I prefer. I actually, well, let's just say that I like them both. I think in modern days, because of originally I preferred in person because the available online tools royally sucked.
Oh yeah. Oh
But
god, yeah.
today online is so much better, except for the human element. And I'm always screwed up by you humans. The human element always bites me in the ass because, I can run these great games. I have all these tools that bring all this energy, and then I've got some jerk off sitting over there doing Facebook, and another one's over there doing his homework, and another one's searching cat videos in the middle of the climactic epic fight scene to conquer or lose the world. And it's so frustrating because I know what they're doing. You can hear the change in their voice when they disconnect. When when you're talking on the phone and someone's reading something, you can hear their responses are slower. They drag out their words a little bit because they're trying to give themselves some time to process two things. And I hear this, but the thing is without face to face, and I've called them on it, but they go right back to it, which actually brings me to something I did want to talk about here briefly after this, but it segues perfectly into it.
Go.
But okay. So, and this is something I'm about to send an email out to my players, and because it was requested that I do this, and it also came out about I've been doing convention games I did MomoCon, had a break, and did AndoCon, right? So I've done 2 major conventions, 2 huge events with huge numbers of players, large scale battles, all this stuff. And when you're sitting at a table, and you've got a 9-foot long table, and there's 10 of you, and you're fighting through 200 enemies to get to the final battle. Everybody has to be on point because bad role-playing habits, which we constantly rant about on this program.
Which I will also fully admit I am guilty of sometimes too.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that for a second. But
okay.
the point is this. And honestly, Trey, wherever you are, brother, you're my soulmate, man. I walked into that final battle, took one look at the situation, and said, Trey method, here I come. I've practiced for this. I've prepared for this moment. I've been drilling myself for the last 2 weeks to set up for this day. And I will tell you something. Trey, if you're out there, and I got to dig up your email because I want to link you to all this stuff. If you're out there, buddy, thank you. Here's what happened. No joke. So we're sitting there, and
by the way, if you're wondering what what Trey he's talking about, I think it was episode 2 or 3. That we went over the Trey method, so just you can segue. If you can go listen to that episode, and
we'll link it. We should link it to this. Okay, so here's the deal. So in the way the game was set up on Sunday, the big game was there was 2 feeder games that fed into the final game. So we actually broke the group into 2 parties, 5-man teams, ran our own adventures, and then fed into a joint campaign and finished out the campaign. It was an amazing event. Now, at the climactic part of my feeder game under Sean Fannin, I was being wailed on by 7 minions that were just beating the crap out of my guy. But my guy's a commander. But by that time, we had pretty much shattered most of their army, and so there was only the elite troops left. And at that climactic moment, Sean said, roll notice, and I rolled notice. He said, you notice that these guys are suddenly beginning. You can see they're beginning to waver. Their courage is beginning to fail them. So I made him a pitch, and I rolled my persuasion. And remember, I'm a commander, so I'm actually not too bad at this. I was like, follow me. This is madness. Lay down your arms and stand aside, and no harm will come to you. But if you will follow me, I will free you from bondage. And so I convinced them to join me. So all of a sudden, I turn on the enemy, and I have a squad of 5 guys and 2 archers, and we rolled the main bad guy. Well, when we warped in, right before we warped in, I turned to those 7. I said, any man who will follow me through that portal will earn a year's wage. Now, as soon as if we survive, you earn a year's wage. Well, greed overcame better sense, and they jumped in the portal with it. So I hit the big map. I hit the huge map with me and 7 other figures. I'm running a squad of 8 characters. Think about that. Think about in any of your games, one of your players is running 8 figures. 8 characters at one time.
It's
right.
No. You you would pretty much be. I don't even hardly trust myself with that many freaking NPCs. You would be about the only person I could confidently say could do it unerringly.
So here's what we did. So I'm like, Trey method, I'm going to try it. So he handed me the character sheet with the two blurbs, because I had one leader and then, like, the rest of them were all minions. They're all mercs, merc leader, merc. And I read all their information real quick and got it firmly into my head, the stats that I would need. Well, as the game went, one of the characters, and I'm not going to mention who it was, had their own. I'm not even going to use gender terms. I'm going to be very neutral. Another one of the characters had a minion of their own, an extra of their own, who was a constant companion to this character. I'm trying to be very careful here, and
Which almost makes me wonder why.
Had been with him forever. So this was part and parcel to this individual's character. When their turn came up and they were doing it, it took them a bit longer than Sean Patrick Fannin would have liked. Because they were trying to figure out the rules for their whatever in the game, and he got a little upset with them. Let's just say he was a little peeved, understandably, in the sense that time constraints, but he was kind of a little sharp or whatever. Well, my turn came around, and as soon as it hit me, I hit the ground running, and I was like, I did the Trey thing. I was like, all right. Colonel Wolfhaven shouts to his men to form ranks, and I ran to the other end of the thing. And when we arrived, we had to roll for sanity. So as soon as the thing hits me, I was like, all right, and I was like, roll, 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 roll. I'm like, these three guys are shaking, these three guys are okay. Here I am, and I ran down the table, dropped the icons, moved the people. Then I was like, all right, I'm calling them to form up. They're going to form up. We're going to move here, and I moved them through. And he's like, huh. And then a little bit later on my next turn, I was like, all right, we're going to move to here, form them into ranks. These two guys are going to attack this guy, roll, one hit, one, I said, we roll, I got this number. He said, hit, miss. I rolled this number. He said, hit, I roll damage. Done. Two archers, fire, one hit, done, damage. Then, and this is the one that got me on the third round, I jumped through a portal with all of my men, and
no. Howard? Son of a... Pardon us while we have technical difficulties. Crap. Howard... Might have to have Miri edit this part. Howard? That's what I thought. Alright, unfortunately we have lost the cohort, the co-host. The co-host. Crap. I really wanted him to continue. Alright, so stand by a moment, bear with me while I see if I can find out what the heck is going on.
I'm back.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Sorry about everybody. My net's being stupid. It's because I'm doing the podcast. My internet provider received a notification that I was doing my podcast today, and there's a dude at the central office flicking the thing back and forth.
Although that time might actually have been my internet. Dang it. Bloody heck. Crap. this way. Alright, I'm going to try to get a hold of our cohort. You want to call him cohort. Okay, he dropped again. You back?
Hello.
Your camera was on there for a second, but welcome back.
All right, let's hope this doesn't happen again.
Yeah. So jumping into Portal, I believe, is where you left off.
Yeah. So I leapt into a portal with my full squad. Sean Patrick Fannin dropped me out, just threw me on the board wherever he wanted. And he's like, "Well," I said, "Do I have any more moves to go?" And he's like, "Yes, but you have to run." So I'm like, "All right." I roll my run dice for all my guys. I say I'm going to form up an alliance. So full squad, charged, got into the enemy ranks, ran my entire combat, bam, bam, bam. I'm like, right-hand guy's gonna attack this guy, roll. Gave him my number. He said, you hit. I say, he slashes. Here's the damage. Dead. Next guy, roll, hit, damage, dead. Third, the last guy, roll, miss. Archer, roll, hit, damage, roll. And it just, I did an 8-squad turn in the time it took for the other people to do their own turn. And Sean Patrick Fannin said, now that's how you run combat. It's trade method, guys. It's all about preparation. It's all about being on point. And when you do it, the GM loves you.
Yep.
So
keep in mind that the GMs have got shit they can learn from the trade method as well.
Oh, hell yeah. But anyway, so to go back, so I'm going to be sending out a message to my players because I've been doing all these convention games, and I'm beginning to see bad habits creep back in. Experienced gamers falling into bad habits, and we all do it.
Yeah.
Players just checking their phones rather than listening to the game. People sitting there, nose stuck in a core book, just looking at all the cool stuff they're going to get in 7 levels without actually, paying attention to the combat. You know what I'm talking about? People, not learning their characters, so when their turn comes, they have no idea what the hell they're going to do. So I'm actually going to have to send a message out because I've been through enough games in the last month, and I've seen so many bad habits, and it's heartbreaking.
Yeah. I would think at least the Epic game hasn't been too bad, but there has been a lot of taking time to consider what their character is going to be doing on their turn.
Yes.
So
combat runs forever.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I was having everyone put in their characters in the new character sheets in Roll20, so that way, that way you can try to kind of get to know your character again.
Yeah, and the other thing is with the Epic game is spellcasters they gotta know their spells and they gotta cast them. They gotta know what they're gonna cast before the turn comes up.
Yeah,
drives me nuts.
Although in some instances, because like Puff, for example, she's not used to playing spellcasters, so she's not used to sometimes like, okay, I want to do this. It's like it doesn't work the way you're thinking it does. Like, oh, okay, but still, yeah, doing your homework, doing your research, especially considering she's a sorcerer. She only knows so many spells. She really should, start getting to know those backwards and forwards.
As far as the Epic game goes, let me just say again, amazing players, all very talented, quite enjoy it. One of the problems with the Epic campaign actually is not a problem with the Epic campaign. It's a problem with the medium, as we just talked about.
Yeah.
Online, people can't see each other. All of the out-of-game chat eventually drives me insane because the people that are actually trying to role-play the scene can't talk. So many times I hear Allison or who's playing Anaya?
Oh, that'd be Miri.
Miri. I hear Miri trying to say something. Occasionally I'll hear Liz sputter like she's trying to say something. Myself, like I just half the time just don't even try. When the people get really into a tizzy, laughing and joking around, I'm like, well, I'm just going to wait until this dies down before trying to roleplay my character because, there's no point.
Yeah.
I don't know if Matt just doesn't talk much, if that's just his person, or if he's just playing a character. But the bottom line is...
it's a little of both with Matt.
The bottom line is that, none of us want to, we're here to have fun, we're here to play, we're here to joke around, we're here to have a good time as a group. So none of us want to be, a dick and be like, well, you can't talk out of character because you'll slow down the game.
Well,
then no one's having fun.
Well, if you actually remember, I did try to have, since we're doing the Epic game more role-playing in voice, which is actually something else we can bring up with the fact of role-playing online here in a second. We're doing the Epic game more role-play in voice than in text, and I've tried to get the out-of-game commentary to be in text, but either most people aren't just remembering that, or they think of something and instantly say it without thinking to type it.
Which is why I do there's two reasons. When I do online games, all of my role play is in text. A, it cuts that out. If the verbal is a verbal conversation that's out of game and the text conversation is in game, problem solved. Because people are far less likely to blurt out, "Hark! I hear them coming," than they are to be like, "Dude, last night, this guy, I gotta tell you the story." See the difference? And the other reason I do text in game is that I have a record of what actually happened in game.
Yeah, and normally I do too. I'm not fully remembering why we went voice with the Epic game. I think most of the other players were preferring it. But normally you're right. I mean, normally when I'm gaming online, I do voice for the out of game stuff because I can, some people can talk and type at the same time.
I can.
I can't very well. Liz can. Liz can look at me and be typing something and talking to me and still typing and not screwing up.
Better off than I am, but I can't actually do it if I prefer not to.
So,
my spell's anyway, so
But yeah, so and actually in the Epic game it used to be I was recording, same thing like we're doing with the podcast, recording them, and that's how I had the log. But you're right. Usually I prefer text.
You didn't.
Well, it's because I kept forgetting.
Well, the bottom line is with the Epic game, I don't think it's necessarily even a problem with the Epic game. If we're all sitting around a table, it wouldn't be a problem at all. But in the form that it is a huge issue. The two things with the Epic game is there's the three things. A, the out-of-game conversation online with that number of players tends to create a situation in which a very small few talk the entire time, and the rest rarely, if ever, talk.
Yeah.
Like last game, I'm trying to remember how many times Liz actually spoke. Matt spoke when Allison directly, or not Allison, when what's her face, the character, Emberfawn, Ella directly spoke with him, but otherwise he almost didn't talk. I didn't talk much. So it's just a problem of online, large group of people, a lot of out-of-game chat. The second thing, of course, is with a group that size, if everyone's not on the ball during combat's going to take for freaking ever. Unless the GM really underprepared.
You know what? I knew you were going to bring that up. God damn it.
In which case, not a problem.
I'm not getting old. Shut up.
That was possibly one of the best combat sessions I've ever had.
Oh, God. I even brought that up in the... That's actually one of the reasons why, for the finale of the Star Wars game, I went more cinematic than actual die roll. Because after that last game of the Epic game, God, why'd you have to bring that up, man?
Oh, my God. Yeah.
But, I'll even say this. I'll even put my own head on the chopping block on this. The GM sometimes needs to be better prepared. Of course, the one time I was really prepared, I didn't need to.
Yep.
Because you downed them before, the third part of the round. But there have been times in the past where I was like, okay, what's he going to do? I'm deciding what they're going to do when it's happening, and I really should have a better game plan ahead of time, and again, especially with spellcasters. Now, again, this last session, I was prepared for that. I actually had, my two major NPC spellcasters, what spells they were going to cast, 10 rounds. I didn't need it.
Never got them off.
Well, one of them did, because he went first.
Well, what I was going to say, the third and I guess final issue actually ties into the other two, in that, so if you have a situation in which a small group of people dominate the conversation in a game, which typically happens because they're the more social character. Ironically, and this is what blows my mind about the Epic game, I talk more than anyone I know. I am that dude. I am the annoying asshole that doesn't shut up in games. And it's something that, how you keep saying on the podcast, people keep telling you need to shut up and listen more type thing.
Yeah.
People tell me that in games for my entire life. So the last, 5 or so years, I've really tried hard, if it's not my turn, to shut the hell up. In the Epic game, I'm one of the people sitting in the background just kind of going, well, that's interesting. for most of the time, which is a weird place for me to be. Like, I feel kind of awkward. I'm like, I really should be. And truth be told, there's a lot of stuff. Believe it or not, 9 times out of 10, when they're going in the little conversation jokes, I have all these personal anecdotes and stories and comments that I'd like to make. And half the time, I open my mouth to make them, and then I realize that it will push us further away from game. So I just elect not to get involved in the out-of-game chat in order to sort of minimize it, since there's already so much. I feel that I would be detracting from the game and making your job harder if I actually encouraged it. But when you add out-of-game talk,
well, the sad part is there are sometimes I encourage it unwittingly. So I am not immune from all this.
Oh, dude, me neither. So I'm the one who broke you with the omnivore.
The omnivore.
Anyway, so I'm guilty of sin. But when you include the out-of-game chat with people, not really knowing what they're going to do with their characters when the turn comes, you end up with very, very long comment sessions.
It's a compounding of things, because like each issue on its own wouldn't necessarily be that bad, but they do compound on each other.
So we're trying to do these in-person, in-game, like in-game conversations, and 90% of it is out-of-game chat. So the conversations get longer and longer and longer because there's less and less actual character chat and more out-of-game chatter, plus long combats because people really don't know what they're doing, they don't understand how their spells work, whatever the case may be. Then the turns in and out of game just get increasingly longer, and they seem to get longer as the game goes on. So then those of us who are not in that scene, the game, how long do those games usually run? 4 hours? 5?
Between 3 to 4.
Yeah.
Give or take.
I'd be interested to clock, like just starting off
actual game time.
Not only how much game time, like for me, I've considered getting a stopwatch, and when you do me in a scene, clicking it, and then waiting till I come back up in a scene, seeing how much extra time goes between when, let's say, Matt actually has a scene that features him that's not just bashing someone's skull in, and the next time he's featured in a scene that's not directly related to Ella like jumping his bones. So, if you have characters that are sitting there waiting for more than an hour to do anything in game, you're gonna have an attrition problem.
Yeah.
Dude, and the truth is that it's a large group of people online. Man, my Wednesday night games, this crap happens all the time. I'm constantly trying to herd them back to the plot. I mean, they sit there for an hour, and dude, someone introduced a link last game, and finally I'm like, all right, guys, you know what? Pause game, just do whatever you're doing. I'm gonna go make a sandwich. I'll be back. Let's role play. And they were like half an hour. They're trying to figure out some stupid link that had nothing to do with the game.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if you just want to get together and play around on the internet, do it on your own time. So trust me, and I'm dealing with 3 players, so so I understand. And that's one of the reasons I don't give you any grief about it, because hell, I mean, you let's just say your eyes might have been somewhat
bigger than mine.
I don't want to say that because you've actually handled it relatively well, but you did.
Remember, originally I was only going to be having 5.
Yeah, well,
because
that
Miri wasn't originally available, but then she became available because, unfortunately, she got fired.
And again, I'm not saying the problem is people are very touchy about this sort of stuff. Like I fully admit when I'm doing stupid stuff. I fully admit that, and sometimes in the Epic game, after not having been involved with the game for like 2 hours, sometimes I begin to just sit there kind of like, oh, wait. Yeah, I can't wait for my turn. Ricky's actually been in the room with me, and he's like, looked at me, he's like, are you going to act now? And I'm like, nope, not my scene. So I'm guilty of the same thing. Like you and I both, and I fully admit when I do stupid stuff. And again, like the Omnivore, I broke that game for 5 minutes. So I mean, if you want to point fingers at someone whose out of game chat has affected the game, it's got 2 thumbs and it's this guy.
Well, or 2 thumbs and this guy, and I'm the GM.
Yes, but on the other hand, this is what we're here to do. We're here to address problems and find solutions. And if we can't admit when we have issues, and if we can't figure out the solutions, then what the hell are we doing up here?
Good point. So I like how that segues, so you're not hopefully pissing anyone off.
I'm not trying to. That's
I know. I understand that, but like you said, I mean, some people can get very touchy about it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I'm always trying to say it's like I am guilty of this too.
You're
Even
killing
when
me, Smalls. Killing me.
well, I mean, even when we're trying to give advice to other GMs, it's like,
Yeah.
you should be doing this better, and I should be taking my own damn advice.
Okay, guys. All right. Everyone out there in Radio Land or whatever you want to call it, Internet Land, the only reason we can sit here and talk about all this stuff is because we have made every one of these mistakes. Not once, repeatedly.
Either have done it, or at the very least have personally witnessed it.
Yes. No. So, like, experience.
Mostly on the column A.
Yes, experience is the greatest teacher, and the reason we're able to pass our wealth of knowledge on to you is because we have repeatedly screwed up. I mean,
remember what I said. I mean, we figured I've been GMing for 16, 17 years.
Yes.
And this is what gets me. I am always, I do the good, bads, and uglies.
Yes.
I try to do good, bads, and uglies at the end of every game. I actually feel something is wrong when someone can't point out a bad to me. Because I am always of the opinion that I can always be better. And I know that because I know that because I know people who are better.
You can always be better.
Yeah. So like when some people like couldn't think of any bads, I'm like, bullshit. I almost want to strangle them. I'm like, no, give me a bad, you son of a. Or they're like, bad the weather, and I'm like, I have no control over that.
Well,
I'm sorry to interrupt, but
no,
I sometimes wonder if it's people like not wanting to hurt my feelings,
yes.
And I'm like, dude, hurt my feelings. I am not going to get a better. I mean, okay, it is flattering with people saying it's like you are such a good GM. I can't think of a bad. That is flattering, but I'm still like, no, I can be better.
It's not helpful. It's flattering, but not helpful. No, and that's why I'm trying to bring stuff up here. But I also, the problem is, again, I don't want to seem like I'm accusatory. I'm not, dude. If I didn't enjoy the game, I would tell you. There have been times. There's one game in there that one game where I that game I didn't do anything. I don't know if you noticed that. That game, I actually didn't. I was involved in like one thing in the beginning. For the rest of it, I didn't do anything.
Yeah,
the reason I didn't have a good, bad, and the ugly was I wasn't really in that game.
Well, that could have been your bad. I didn't really do anything.
Well, at that point, I was like, you know what? I'm going to leave it to the people that were playing. But in general, I really enjoy the game. Great group of players, great plot. I mean, I really enjoy it. But like anything, I mean, hell, this thing with Andocon was one of the best games I've ever run in, mainly because of the setup. I mean, how often do you have a convention hall, a 9-foot table, 10 dedicated players, 200 plus minis, and like a whole day to blow shit up? I mean,
I wish.
I know, right? It's hard to top that, right? So so it was great. But that's
you know what we should try to do.
Oh God.
You know what we should try to do? Hear me out, motherfucker. Hear me out. For the Epic game, when we actually get to the finale, we
do it in person.
We should actually try to find a central location for everyone and get everyone there for a weekend.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Maybe even pick like a holiday weekend and try to do like an extended weekend, like a 4-day weekend. Do our own little personal Epic Game Con, and try to actually do it because honestly, I'm questioning a little if I can honestly get the effect I'm wanting for the last fight in Roll20. I don't think I can.
Probably not, and that would be cool. Scheduling notwithstanding, I'd love to do it, and I think it'd be great. Of course, man, I'm always going to help you out. And I'm vested.
Sometimes I actually feel like I am taking advantage of you, dude. I mean,
No.
I know you say that, dude, but I still feel like that. Sometimes I feel I'm like I'm not gonna ask Howard because I already freaking use him too much. I know he's busy.
The truth of the matter is it's a labor of love, dude. I really enjoy gaming. I really enjoy it, and I do enjoy the Epic campaign. Don't get me wrong. I can bitch about it sometimes, but I bitch about my games.
Okay, dude, I bitch about it.
I bitch about my games.
This is my baby, and I'm fucking bitching about it half the time.
And with my games, dude, I'm always feeling like, well, crap, I could have done this, or crap, I could have done this, or crap, I could have done this, and I read a rule, and I'm like, I should have remembered that. Shit all the time. Dude, was it 2 games ago or 3 games ago when I was talking about Shintar about the game was rough? If you remember that, Ricky was there, he's like, dude, I noticed how you keep stressing that game was rough. Was it a little rough? And I'm like, well, you were there, asshole. It was a little rough. It was mostly my fault. Like, that's the thing. It was like, and I realized going into it that I'd made a mistake, but I was committed, and people had driven like an hour to see me, so I was like, well, I'm going to run this. And toward the end of it, I was like, yep, that was a mistake. We should have played Canasta.
Which, by the way, is my favorite card game.
Really?
Yeah.
I have no idea how to play Canasta. When you come down, you have to play it.
Oh, hell yeah. I'll bring the rule sheets. I'll bring the decks.
I use that reference all the time, and it's like one of the games that I know nothing about. I just think Canasta is a great name for a game.
That's like a Southern thing as far as I've heard. I mean, that's where my family learned it.
People, I need to learn now because I'm getting old. That's why I learned from you, because you're older.
Only by a few months, ass. Which, by the way, happy birthday. Don't think I didn't forget.
Oh, well, there we go. I guess it's obligatory, but no, like one of the hallmarks in the Southern culture of being old is learning Canasta. You've already learned it, so there you go.
I learned it as a kid.
Well, you're an old soul, apparently. But
well, I've known that. But anyway, wow, we're getting sidetracked.
Why do you get surprised? Like, I don't even get that every time we get sidetracked.
We wonder why we can't run a game nonstop for a while. We can't even run our own podcast nonstop.
Oh, okay. Well, to be honest, with that big game, we did take a couple of breaks just so people could pee. Because, seriously, we're slamming down. Well, first of all, slamming coffee in the morning, and later on, we're slamming big gulps like Jolt Cola and whatever. And so you're running like 8 hours. About hour 4 or 5, man, you're gonna pee like a racehorse.
Well, no, I'm talking about, like we're commenting about segueing out of game chatter and whatnot in the games. We can't even run our podcast without having out of podcast chatter.
Yeah, well,
segued into shit.
Well,
so there you go. It is not anyone in particular when the GM and his cohort are freaking screwing themselves.
Doing the same thing. No, I have an idea. We're gonna, we could try it, whatever. Of course, you have your pre-game bullshittery.
Which is usually like I say, game starts at 7:30. I'm not expecting it till 8.
No, I know. It's the obligatory pre-game bullshittery. That's the official title. But once game gets started, one of the things that you might consider doing, and I don't know if it'll work at all. It probably won't, but it's a possibility. Is that having like more regularly scheduled breaks. That might. Like, break it up like at the hour, like 5-minute breaks at the hour, but 5 max, and then tell the players, like, listen, during these 45 minutes or these 55 minutes or whatever, these 50 minutes, let's try to, as much as possible stay on point. We're going to break for 5 or 10 minutes at this point, at which point, you guys can, do whatever you want, but when we get back into it. Because here's the way I see gaming, and I could be wrong, but I see gaming as, it's a hobby. We're doing it for fun. However, let's say you were playing on, like, a community baseball team, right? You signed up, you bought can you still hear me? Did I cut out?
Yeah. No.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry.
So let's say you're on a community baseball team. You bought the cleats, you bought the uniform, you got your bag, you got your bats, and
you made an investment.
You made an investment. You go to the practice. Well, the game comes up, first game in like the season with and you're playing, let's say, the local church, right? And you get there, and you bring the beers, and you bring the chips, and you bring, whatever, and you go out there, and you're sitting out in outfield, and you and the rest of the outfielders are sitting around having a jolly good time, laughing and joking around, having fun in the middle of the game.
Yeah.
That's great for you. It sucked for everybody else. And the point is why would you suit up, drive to the park, get out of the car, drag all your crap onto the field just to sit around, joke around, and laugh the whole time and forget about the freaking game? Because
that's what you do when you're watching the game.
Exactly, and I feel the same way
in it.
I feel the same way about gaming. I'm like, if I'm going to show, if you're taking 3 or 4 hours out of your day, you're putting all the work, which incidentally, one of our topics eventually is going to be how much work do we put in NPCs. We'll do that later when we have Matt. But it would have been a great segue, but we're not doing that. Yeah. So you put all this time and effort, and I know how much time and effort you put into it because I know how much time and effort I put into it. And I only put
and I'm not giving you everything.
I know, and I'm only doing a fraction of it, so I know your workload because I have my own damn games. So all of this time, all of this effort, we all carve out time in our busy schedules. We get online to play this game and spend 4 hours with people spending 90% of it just sitting around joking around, laughing, having a good time, which is great. Except why, why bother having the game if that's all we're going to do?
Which is actually one of the reasons why. It is actually one of the reasons why I, even though on the weekend, on the weeks where we haven't been able to
get together and chat.
Yeah, we haven't been able to do the game. I still want to get everyone together just so we can still chat and hang out. Although Allison has started up a game to run when you're not there. Which actually has been turning rather fun because heaven forbid I can actually play in something again. I know I bitch about it, and Liz actually harks on me a lot. I know I honestly don't get as much time as a player as I would like.
Yeah.
The problem though is that you can't keep me from behind the screen. You can't keep me away from the screen for long. So I may bitch about it, but I also realize that there are sometimes I do actually I enjoy the times I do get to play.
Well, I know you understand. You've said you understand. I'm sure you've made this perfectly clear to other players. But sometimes I get the feeling that the other people at the game think I'm kind of a dick because I never show up for the just hang out things. But here's the problem, people, and this is my on-air apology to every member of the Epic game. It's not that I don't like you guys. I really do. It's not that I don't enjoy gaming with you. I really do. And please don't let this podcast make you think that I don't. I really do. Our job here is to fix problems and to make things better. And so that's what we're trying to do. And if we can't have an open discussion, we can't have a discussion. That being said...
Well, and the fact that you are blatantly honest.
Yes.
You don't beat around the bush. If you don't like something, you say it. So the fact that obviously he's saying he likes it, people, so...
Here's the blatantly honest truth. I am really freaking busy. Really busy. I have Shinetar, which I'm doing crap tons of work for. I have my own games. I'm running 6 different games. I've got my other projects, not to mention a job, a wife, and a family on the way. So I have a lot on my plate. The fact that I carve out once a week or once whenever we play 4 hours to play the Epic game is kind of a miracle, actually. I mean, it pretty much is like the first point for Byron for sainthood. I mean, it's a miracle to get me there for that long. Okay. So
just about.
If Byron's like, well, we're going to go hang out for 4 hours.
That's one of the reasons why I was actually iffy originally about actually having you on regularly on the podcast, because getting you to record sometimes was
difficult.
Was a pain in the half.
It's difficult. So when y'all are doing the just the sit around and talk sessions, if I can make it, great. But if I'm not, it's
9.9 times out of 10. Well, also, a good 7 out of 10, we're not gaming because you're off at a convention or a reenactment or something anyway. So you don't have internet access to begin with. Oh
yeah, reenactments, the internet, the self-service sucks, dude. But anyway, so that's the truth of the matter. Is it's not that I don't enjoy people. It's not that I wouldn't love to sit around and just shoot the shit. I can't. I don't have enough hours in the day to do that. As a matter of fact, I'm on this podcast. I was interrupt myself in moving all of my stuff all my gaming stuff from inside the house back to this back area so that we could reorganize the house to put in a nursery. So on top of spending all night last night writing this long thing for the thing that I'm basically trying to get paid for, it's life, people, life. That's all I gotta say.
Well, and I haven't gotten the impression that anyone has been spiteful of you for not making those, because I've explained. I was like, he's busy. and most everyone else is like, yeah, we can understand that.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it.
I sometimes wonder if they understand just how busy you are, because sometimes even I don't fully grasp how busy you are.
Yeah.
Because on the one hand, it's like you're busy, but on the other hand, you do make the time to do certain things like the podcast, like the Epic game. So sometimes signals can get a little crossed.
Yeah, don't tell some of my players I occasionally cancel regularly scheduled games to do the podcast. That's kind of how I do it. But let's keep that just between you and me.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I'm doing it on Tuesday, because Tuesday's usually you're in my night anyway.
Which when it started becoming our night, I began to push things away. So when people are like, "Can you do something Tuesday?" I'm like, no. I'm sorry.
Which I appreciate. Which I do.
Anyway.
So, all right, I think we've bullshitted enough.
Yes, this has been epic. We have a session talking about not getting distracted and staying on point, during which session all we do is get distracted and off
That's
point.
what I was saying earlier.
Wait, very much like the session about preparedness being the session.
Motherfucker.
Failed to hit record.
God.
You know,
Gaming, you're bringing that back up? Jeez.
so what we need to do is we need to have a session about not drinking during games, and you can do it completely blasted.
You don't want me to do this podcast blasted. Oh, no.
Hey, what is it, Jorge Vallejo? You want that raw file.
No, because I get very silly. I'm a happy drunk.
Oh, God, let's not.
No. Because I'd like to think of myself as rather good-natured when I'm on this thing anyway. Can you imagine me, like, bubbly?
No, and I don't want to, actually.
Of course, as I'm saying this, I'm sure probably some of our listeners are like, all right, we pay money for that.
Yes,
Like, you buy the booze, I might actually consider, but...
You realize that probably would get us more listeners? that one podcast spikes. Like, the listenership shoots up. You're like, Byron is going to be drinking himself black tonight and doing the podcast at the same time. Howard, who cannot drink, will be his foil. Go!
Oh. Okay, now that you've given me the idea, I'm actually sitting here concerned. Could we actually do like a drunk night on the podcast? I don't know if I want to do that. Because actually, that's one thing I don't like mixing. I've heard a lot of people, and I know we were trying to wrap up, and here we're getting segued again. I know a lot of people say,
podcast about staying on point. Go.
I know a lot of people have said that, like, oh, drinking and gaming work great together. I have yet to actually have a good experience where drinking and gaming went well together.
Well, I have a rule that you are not allowed to drink at my games, except if you are Wea or Greg, in which case you gentlemen are required to drink before coming to my games because you suck as players when you're sober. No joke, dude. No joke. We've been playing this game for like a year and a half, and then one day they showed up and they were irascible, and they didn't know their characters. They couldn't roleplay for crap, and I'm like, what happened to you idiots? I'm like, did you not get enough sleep? And they're like, yeah, we didn't get anything to drink today. And I'm like, are you dehydrated? He's like, no, we didn't have any alcohol. And I'm like, what? I'm like, and they're like, yeah, we come to your games well lubed, dude. I'm like, go out and get yourself a beer and don't come back till you've had at least 3. So they did. We paused games, they left, came back, and it was one of the best sessions I've ever run. So, I mean,
I'm actually kind of glad I haven't had any players where I've had to force them to go liquor up.
Hey, some of my games, dude, it helps.
Well, yeah, I'll attest to that one. I will attest to that one.
I love you guys.
I'm sure as hell not. I'm sure as hell not GMing drunk. Fuck that.
Oh my god.
Fuck. Because I was just sitting there thinking, I was like, well, maybe we could do an epic game. No. No. Because nothing will happen. I'll just, I'll be like Bill Cosby's himself when he was doing the thing about the high. I'll just start laughing at nothing.
Oh my god, dude. That would actually be horrible.
And the sad part is I'm a cheap date. 1 shot of vodka and I'm already getting a buzz.
Dude, 2 tablespoons of 10% alcohol cough syrup. If you're cheap, what does that make me? A whore?
No, that's because it'll kill you.
No. Well, then we get to racial whatever, but not terms that we don't want to use on a podcast. But seriously, I get drunk on anything. I look at a bottle of alcohol and I get drunk. So, I mean... So, yes, if you're cheap, I am free. Let's put it that way.
I guess.
Oh, Lord, we got to wrap this up before something bad happens.
As if it hasn't already. So, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, maybe not exactly about our sanity, but what the fucks? Comment, write on the blog, email, Twitter, Facebook. God, Lord knows we've got enough ways to get a hold of us, people.
Yeah.
Come on now.
Thank you, Jorge, by the way. We are listening to you as well.
Yay. Glad to know we still have the European representing. What? What?
I'm just laughing about the trunk thing, dude. Keep going, man.
God. So, thank you for legging through with us this week. Hopefully you will join us next week, as our listenership is either going to skyrocket or tank one or the other.
Yeah.
So, I have been your GM Byron.
I have been your co-host, Howard.
And just remember the motto of Ropai Gamma is roll high, play well, die hard. I'm a bitch.